A honeybee is about to make the only decision it will ever make that costs it everything. In the next 10 seconds it will stab you, rip its own insides out and die a slow, twitching death, and it will do this on purpose. This isn't an accident, it's not a design flaw, it's a suicide weapon that evolution built on purpose, and by the end of this video you'll understand why a bee's death sting might be one of the most sophisticated self-sacrifice systems in the entire animal kingdom. We'll also get into why this only happens with honeybees, why some bees can sting you over and over without dying, and the one bizarre detail about a bee's stinger that keeps working even after the bee is dead. Let's get into it. To understand why a honeybee dies after stinging you, you have to look at the stinger itself because it's not shaped like you'd expect. A honeybee's stinger is barbed, like a fishing hook or a harpoon. When a bee stings something soft and flexible, like another insect, the barbs slide out just fine. But human skin, and the skin of most mammals, is thick and elastic. When the bee tries to pull away, those barbs catch and lock into your skin like a grappling hook. Here's the lesser-known part most videos skip. The stinger isn't just a needle, it's attached to an entire venom sac, plus a cluster of muscles and nerve tissue. When the bee tries to fly away and the barbs won't release, the stinger literally tears out of the bee's abdomen, pulling out part of its digestive tract and nerve ganglia along with it. This is essentially a controlled abdominal rupture. The bee doesn't just lose a stinger, it loses a chunk of its internal organs. Here's the detail that surprises almost everyone. After the bee flies off or dies, the detached stinger keeps pumping venom into your skin. The venom sac has its own muscles that continue contracting in a rhythmic pulse, driven by the isolated nerve cluster still attached to it. This means the weapon operates independently of the bee's brain or survival. It's less like a needle and more like a self-contained venom pump with its own nervous system, a biological drone that keeps completing its mission after its operator is gone. This is actually why beekeepers recommend scraping a stinger out sideways with a fingernail or credit card rather than pinching it with tweezers. Pinching squeezes the venom sac and injects more venom faster. This is the part that seems irrational until you understand bee society. A honeybee colony is a superorganism. Individual bees are less like individual animals and more like disposable cells in a much larger body, the hive. From an evolutionary standpoint, a single worker bee sacrificing itself to protect the colony is no different than your body sacrificing skin cells to form a scab. The individual doesn't need to survive, the colony does. This is called superorganism theory, and it explains why worker bees, who are almost all sterile females, are essentially expendable in the eyes of natural selection. A worker bee's genetic legacy isn't tied to her own survival. It's tied to the queen's reproductive success, since colony members are extremely closely related. Dying to protect the hive from a bear, a wasp raid, or a curious human is, in evolutionary terms, a win. Here's a fact most people have never heard. When a honeybee stings, it releases an alarm pheromone called isopentyl acetate at the sting site. This chemical smells faintly like bananas and it acts like a homing beacon for every other bee in the area, signaling threat here, attack here. This is part of why beekeepers are taught never to swat at a bee. A swatted or squished bee releases this same pheromone, potentially triggering a coordinated defensive response from the rest of the hive. So the sting isn't just an attack, it's a marker. Even in death, the bee is directing its sisters to finish the job it started. This is where most videos stop, but the real story is more nuanced. Honeybees are actually the exception, not the rule. Bumblebees, carpenter bees, and most solitary bee species have smooth, non-barbed stingers. They can sting repeatedly without injury, pull the stinger out cleanly, and fly away completely unharmed. Queen honeybees also have smooth stingers and can sting rivals multiple times without dying, because a queen's job is to survive and keep reproducing, not defend the hive on the front lines. So the bees die when they sting rule really only applies to female worker honeybees defending their colony against a large threat, which makes this suicidal defense mechanism even more specialized and strange than most people realize. One more twist worth knowing: male bees, called drones, don't have stingers at all. The stinger evolved from a modified egg-laying organ called an ovipositor, meaning only females carry this weapon in the first place. Drones are completely defenseless. Their only biological purpose is mating with a queen, and they don't even survive that. So the next time you see a honeybee near you, remember, that sting isn't rage, and it isn't recklessness. It's the final act of a creature that's been engineered by millions of years of evolution to protect a colony it will never live to see thrive. If this made you look at bees a little differently, hit subscribe. Wonders of Insects covers the strange, brutal, and brilliant survival tricks hiding in the insect world every week. Drop a comment. What insect fact should we cover next? And if you learned something new today, smash that like button so more people can discover just how wild the bug world really is.